Anderson is a very well-rounded fighter. He has really good stand-up, he's quick.
I'm focused on what my game plan is and what I'm going to do to win this fight. I'm going to do his trap, and that's what people want to see. People want to see fights.
Come on, move!
Cesario's hands are like anvils, or like two hammers. When you train mitts with him, you don't know if he's just holding the mitts or hitting you. If you don't keep your hands up,
If your goal is to have dangerous hands, I strongly suggest spending an ample amount of time developing this highly versatile punch and then exploring its various uses. In this sequence, I demonstrate how to throw a straight jab from your stance, but it is important to mention that it can also protect the left side of my jaw. 3. I drive off my rear foot to generate more power behind the strike. 4. I extend my left arm straight out, rotating my fist so that the palm is facing the mat. 5. When I strike my target, I do so with the first two knuckles. Sequence, I demonstrate the traditional right cross. In this version, the cross is thrown directly from your stance and is best utilized when you're already within striking distance of your opponent. To throw the cross from my orthodox stance, I rotate my hips in a counterclockwise direction, come up onto the ball of my right foot, and throw a viable option. Due to the small gloves worn in MMA and the circular path of the strike, your fist will often slip past his arm and connect with the side of his face. In this sequence, I demonstrate how to throw a stand in a circular path. 4. Pivot on the ball of my left foot and rotate my fist so that my palm is facing the mat. 5. Strike my target with the knuckles of my index and middle fingers. Footwork, you'll notice that with some of the hooks, I pivot my lead foot as I did when throwing the long-range hook, and others, I keep my lead foot planted on the mat. This is a matter of preference. Utilize a quick snapping motion that sends your lead fist into the side of your opponent's jaw. Due to range, I do not turn my fist over when throwing this punch. However, I still strike my target using the first two knuckles of my hand. Personally, power, but it's a quick and elusive strike. In this sequence, I demonstrate the lead power uppercut. Before throwing the punch in this version, slipping and countering one of your opponent's straight punches. Due to the dynamics of this punch, it is best utilized when in close facing me and throw my fist upward. To protect my face, I keep my opposite hand up. 3. I can rear uppercut, which I show here. It's a fast and sneaky punch because it is thrown directly from your stance. It can cause a lot of damage, but it is easier for your opponent to read due to the added movements. 2. I pull my left shoulder back, drop my right shoulder, and lower my right fist. Fist straight out, you drop your opposite shoulder and extend your arm forward in a downward arc, similar to a swimmer's freestyle stroke. Due to its arcing, if your hand slips through a crack in his protective shield, he will most likely go to sleep, and even when he manages to absorb the full impact chore. To execute the overhand, I do several things sequentially. 1. Keeping my left hand up for protection, I come up onto the ball of my right foot, rotate my hips and shoulders in a counterclockwise direction, and slightly dip my left shoulder toward my left side. To close the distance, you step your rear foot forward, side-to-side movement. This will cause you to move past your and throw a jab while in mid-step, if your opponent continues and either land hard strikes or execute a takedown. This is accomplished by using your rear hand to redirect his strike towards the outside of your head, while at the same time slipping your head towards the outside of his striking arm. Although the parry is a simple technique to understand, the only way to pull this off. In this scenario, my opponent throws his jab from just inside punching range. As a result, instead of parrying his fist to the outside of my head, I simply catch it in my rear palm. However, if my opponent had a superior reach or threw his jab from well inside punching range, then I would need to parry his hand to the outside of my head and slip my head off my center line to avoid his shot. Either way, it is important to counter with the jab before your opponent can pull his arm back in the rear parry. You never want to reach your hand towards your opponent's punch. If you get into this bad habit, there is a chance your opponent will pick up on it. To break your guard, all he has to do is throw a fake punch. As your hand rockets forward, he pulls his hand back. Suddenly, your face is exposed and vulnerable, allowing him to target it with other punches. To prevent such an outcome, move your hand in front of your face and let the punch come to it instead of the other way around. creates a pathway for me to throw my parrying hand over his arm and land across. It is important to notice that I am not parrying his punch, pulling my hand back into my stance, and then throwing the cross. I throw the cross immediately after parrying his fist downward. If you hesitate between these two actions, your opponent will be able to pull his arm back into his stance to protect his face. In the same fighting stance, meaning you have the same foot forward, when you and your opponent have the opposite arm instead of his lead arm. And just as when parrying the jab, you have the option of redirecting your opponent's fist to the outside of your head, which allows you to. Just as with all parries, it is important not to reach for your opponent's fist. Instead, you want to let his fist come to your hand. Zap the power from his punch, but it also lowers his arm and creates a pathway for me to counter with a jab. It is important to notice that I do not pull my arm back into my stance after executing the parry. I immediately lash out with a jab. If you delay, a couple of things can happen. Either your opponent will pull his arm back into his stance to protect his face from your counter strike, or he will follow up with another strike. To perfect this technique, practice it with a partner as a drill for several minutes at a time. Slightly more dangerous technique because instead of your action repositioning your head to the outside of your opponent's arm, execute a counter jab with my parry arm. If your opponent plans to throw a jab-cross combination, which it is important to notice that this technique follows the general rule. My opponent throws a punch with his right hand and I parry with my left, making it a lot safer. To the outside of my body, I force it downward. Again, this zaps power from his punch and also creates, and when executed with the proper form and correct timing, it can effectively protect you. Slip through a crevice in your protective shield and crash into the side of your face. And even when you utilize it, as my opponent's fist comes at me, I rotate my shoulders in a clockwise direction, drop my left hand towards my soul and towards the left side of my head so that my forearm is stretched across my chin. While parrying is more effective for positioning your body for a counter-strike, the lead elbow parry is an excellent technique to employ when you don't because it limits your chances of getting hit with a secondary strike. In this sequence, my opponent throws a jab. I execute a rear elbow parry. To pull this off, I rotate my body in a counterclockwise direction, drop my right hand towards my solar plexus, and sweep my right elbow across my body to deflect my opponent. As I mentioned in the previous sequence, when in the same fighting stance as your opponent, the inside slip is best utilized to evade his jab. If you've spent some time practicing the techniques I've already demonstrated, you should be quite familiar with the jab. You understand how to throw a jab, and you understand how to evade your opponent's jab using either a slip or a parry. In this sequence, I demonstrate how to blend jab offense and jab defense together. To accomplish this, all you have to do is slip your opponent's jab and throw a jab of your own at the same time. It is important to notice that I land my jab just as my opponent's jab arm reaches the end of its extension. This is key because when you hit an opponent while he is in the middle of a strike, it disrupts his rhythm, which in turn creates openings for you to follow up with a secondary attack. As mentioned in the previous sequence, when you and your opponent are in opposite fighting stances, in this sequence, my opponent and I are in the same fighting stance, and he throws a cross at my face. The goal in any fight is to be as elusive as possible, and mastering both the inside and outside slip is an excellent way to achieve that. In this sequence, in the same fighting stance, as my opponent's fist comes at me, I shift my left foot and roll my left shoulder toward my right side. Pulls it back into his stance and throw a strike ahead of you as he retracts it. There's a utilized when you have a longer reach than involved are exactly the same as when evading your opponent's cause him to miss. However, with the cross reach, you want to execute the basic lean back, so I throw the cross as I lean back. Again, stance. As my opponent's fist comes at me, I rotate my body in a clockwise direction. To ensure that I block his strike, I plant my left forearm against the outside of my opponent's lead. All movements are the same as in the last technique. As my opponent's cross comes at me, I rotate my body in a However, instead of placing my left arm on the outside of my opponent's cross, redirecting it away from or beating one of these opponents with punches on the outside, a lot of times they will grow dead. In this sequence, I demonstrate shadow footwork. Assuming my fighting stance, I move around my imaginary opponent to both acquire a dominant angle of attack and evade strikes. Whether you are new to fighting or an experienced mixed martial artist, this is an excellent drill because it allows you to sharpen your most important tool of all, footwork. Although conducting this drill is always beneficial, it's best as a warm-up prior to training or sparring. In this sequence, I combine evasive footwork such as side steps and pivots with evasive upper body techniques such as inside and outside slips. While fighters will often practice their strikes by isolating them, they rarely do it with footwork. This is a mistake. Footwork is your most important offensive and defensive tool, and it should be practiced as often as possible. I recommend doing this drill several times a week as a warm-up. To begin, have your opponent lead and match his footwork so that you remain in striking distance. After a few minutes, switch up and lead yourself. This drill allows you to isolate the most important part of your game, footwork. Try to focus on never crossing your feet and maintaining your fighting stance at all times. I recommend it as a warm-up prior to training. In this drill, my opponent throws straight punches at my face, and I parry the punches and counter with a punch of my own. For the best results, your opponent should be throwing his punches at less than half speed. The goal is not to damage your opponent, but rather improve your timing and sense of distance. This is an excellent drill to improve your defense against punches. To utilize it, have your opponent throw a series of straight and looping punches at your face, and then block them using your arms. Again, this will allow you to isolate and improve one aspect of your game. In this drill, my opponent again throws a series of straight and looping punches at me, but instead of blocking them, I evade them using slips, side steps, duck unders, and the lean back. To get the most from this drill, focus on executing proper movements, maintaining your balance at all times, and utilizing footwork to acquire a dominant angle of attack. As mentioned earlier, evading your opponent's strikes is always better than blocking them, making this a very, very important drill. In this sequence, I combine 3 of the previous drills into one to improve upon my defense. With my opponent throwing both straight and looping punches, I avoid them using footwork, blocks, and evasive techniques. Again, to get the most out of this drill, focus on footwork, maintaining your balance, and acquiring a dominant angle of attack. To accomplish this, have your opponent throw his strikes at less than half speed. In this sequence, I demonstrate what technical sparring should look like. Instead of trying to hit one another with devastating strikes, we set up each strike with footwork and throw our punches at less than half speed.
Keep shooting. I missed it. Oh, well, don't talk to me. Uppercut. Uppercut, right uppercut. Yeah, just cut him off. Don't fall him. One do it, one do it. Uppercut. Don't stop on the inside. Work on the inside. Work on the inside. Work on the inside. Get closer. Get closer. Yeah. Come on, man. Don't wait. Why are you waiting, son? Hands up. Your hands too low. Boom. Wait. Wait. Here we go. Now listen. It's about time. Dad, why you in the corner like this, son? Get out of the corner. Pivot out of the corner, man. Get up, Dad. Get in, double jab, move left. Nice try. Wanna get jab? Uppercut, right uppercut. Right uppercut. Lean in, right uppercut. Right uppercut, man, right now. Do it, dog. There's the rope, though. There's the rope, though. Work both hands. Shoot. Oh, you're all right. Don't let it start working. Shoot. Don't let it stop. Body, right up there to the body. Extension. Do it again. Shoot. Jab out of the corner. Shoot. No, you can't get away from with that shit. Uppercut. Jump in there. Shoot. Right over. Shoot. Get in there. Go through it, man. Now rush the motherfucker, dog. Hood rush. Yeah. Shoot. Body. Get low.
Sí, no hay gancho. Izquierda.
My hand too low. Your right hand too goddamn low. Don't wait. Shoot. Right now. Straight to the square.
La izquierda, la panza y luego el gancho.
Put them together. Don't fall and cut him off. Move your head side to side right now.
Izquierda, la panza, izquierda.
You ever listen to me? You're show up. Go to it, dog. Rub him off, man. Punch, man. Punch. Yeah. All right, do it again. Shoot. All right, down the elbow. Shoot. All right, that body. Shoot. Right hook. Shoot. Right hook. I'm good. All right, shoot. Now you ain't turning you right into the front, buddy. Come in. Shoot. Down the front.
Izquierda, la panza, izquierda y luego el gancho. Gancho de derecha.
Shoot.
La derecha, la izquierda, panza.
Don't wait. Now you wait for it. Bang it when you do that move. And you don't fucking listen, man. Bang the wrong part. Hands up. Bang it. Double jab right here. Bang it.
Izquierda.
Right up. Body right up. Yeah. You got a body, move body right now. Body, go to the body. Hook. Go back to the body. Stand and work with that left foot on his chin. We in out. Do this. I want you to learn to fight some motherfuckers that move like that. Cut his ass off. Yeah.
Hey, get this, bro. Did it break?
Come on, what point you want?
Why are you cutting off, bro? Why are you cutting this too?
All you gotta do is get low and then get that body. Get low and get that setup, Kevin. Get low and get that body. Go ahead, body, head. Don't let him push you back. Jump.
En medio, ahí adentro, en medio.
Right hook. That motherfucker don't listen to save his fucking life. Nice try.
Adentro, poquito.
Body. The little short shot that we've been working on. Yeah, the little short shot. Short. Come right back. Short. Bam. Shoot.
You move.
Uppercut right now. Why do you fucking do that, man? That's why you lost the last time we was in the ring. Don't do that shit, man. Break it up now. Fire back.
Siguiendo con el
very strong, finish very strong. Go through and put the good rush. Now ain't gonna work. You're not gonna punch. So what? Cut him off. Yeah. Now see, this is what I'm talking about, dog. You don't fucking listen. Yeah. Oh, no.
Jab hook. Jab hook. Good. Good. Hook. Okay. One, two, hook. One, two, hook. Uppercut. Hook. Hook. Under. Yes. 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 Two. One, two. One, two. One, two. Hook.
Left, right, left, right, left, right.
Because I'm reaching here. So, yeah. That's open. Yeah. 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 Good. Say again, uppercut hook. Uppercut hook. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right hand fighter.
going to fight you. Leave my hands and left foot, and then your foot on the outside. Here. Yeah. Go ahead and measure just my power. See, I got my foot on the outside. So I'm trying to go here and here. Very common for right-handed fighters to fight you. Corey Jones, like that. You expect that, right? Okay, come on. Expect that. You know, in there, I'll block. You know it's coming. Boom, boom, boom. You know it's coming. Out of your head.
Yeah, come on.
Yes. Roll it. Under. You know it's coming. Under.
Sempre o melhor caminho diz para você, sempre limpo, sai vazado.
Yeah. If you see it coming, you go under it, go. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Two. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Hook. That's it. Yeah, 1, 2. Good. Good. Put it on the outside, out after the hook. Pivot. Yes. Okay, remember? You're here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Say pivot. He's gonna follow you, okay? 1 step. And your foot's on the outside. Boom. Yes. Okay, my tendency is gonna turn towards you. You take the step there, after a hook, boom, out, I'm here, boom, right? Worst case scenario, you're there, I go here. You come with your jab. Okay? But you want to turn me. It's my instinct to follow you though. So a lot of times when you make that step, you hook, step, yeah. Yes, okay? Because now you haven't got balance, okay? You're turning me into punches. You're in control of the situation, okay? Smart. Jab. Jab. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, hook. Buddy. Buddy. Come on. Come on. Quick.
Rápido, rápido.
1, 2, hook. 1, 2, hook right ahead. 1, 2, hook. Under. Quick.
Rápido.
Yeah.
Foi super tranquila, assim, tipo, não tive problemas. Treinei capoeira, treinei jiu-jitsu com alguns amigos que na época treinavam. Sempre gostei de boxe, taekwondo, Muay Thai.
Olha, isso aí a gente consegue colocar daí, que isso, com esse tipo de treino, a gente consegue colocar na parte emocional, mental, aquilo que a gente quer, né? Ele chegar e espancar de uma vez e acabar a luta. Se o cara não vem, vai pra dentro. Se o cara vem, tá fugindo.
you know, you had a little time to think about it. I mean, you still feel pretty strong about that was the wrong matchup to make?
Oh yeah, because Lamas would have beat the Zombie. Easy fight. The Zombie's overrated. He doesn't deserve to be there. He hasn't fought the quality opponents that me and Lamas have, and that's just what I think.
So what do you think should be next? Because now Lamas is waiting, assuming you get a win. You know, you think you know how things are going to go down the title fight, I'm sure.
I have no clue. You know, who knows what happens with the Aldo fight? Who knows if he moves divisions? There's so many things that come into play. The only thing I can do is just go out there on Saturday and shine and really just make my case.
Obviously, in the Jose Aldo fight.
Really, I feel like I owe the fans that fight, you know, and I owe myself that fight. I trained hard for it. I didn't get a chance to really perform, and you know, it's just something I want. I didn't run. I didn't change divisions. I didn't, you know, make any excuses. I got beat. You know, I put that on myself, and I want another shot. I'm not afraid of it.
What if he does move up? I mean, ultimately, you want a title shot. Let's say he moves up and it's you and Lamas for the title or whatever. Obviously, that's what you want, but would you feel like you lost something by not getting a chance to face Aldo again?
No, because, you know, I've had plenty of time to get there, and it took me a while. You know, I'm a big believer, and I do things the hardest way possible, and I made things the hardest for myself. So I'm having to make believers out of everybody in me again, and I'm trying to do that one step at a time, and ultimately getting a title fight is my goal. So that's my main concern.
How much does the fact that you've got your own gym out in Indio or Palm Springs area, how much has your fostering younger fighters improved your own game?
Before I didn't really have a purpose and a direction. I just did moves. If they worked, I used them. I never had to explain them to people. I never had to like really study how moves work and the body mechanics and the angles and footwork, and that's become like my specialty. I'm a fight nerd. You know, I might not sound like it all the time, because when I'm in my killer mode, I just want to hurt people. But when it comes down to it, I break things down. I watch video. I study fighters. I see what the newest moves are, what's working, and I started doing that when I started helping fighters. I had to learn how to make somebody's skills beat another people's skills, and I feel like, you know, I've learned a lot from Eric Paulson, learned a lot from Greg. I just want to perform. My last fight in London, I was like, man, I'm in Wembley Arena, co-main event. What an honor that is. I went out there going, I have to live up to this potential. I have to live up to this honor that they gave upon me, and that's what I tried to do.
What have you done to mentally prepare for this fight?
Just focus on me. You know, I